myself. So it's referring to all of us, all souls in this world. So Amar had a very terrible boil on his back. It was so painful he couldn't do anything. He was just laying in bed. And all of his relatives and friends were gathered around him out of great compassion, great concern. So his mother and his sisters, the women folk of the family, being very sentimentally compassionate for Amar, they all had hand fans. And they were fanning the boil. And mother was blowing on it to make it feel better. You know, you've probably heard this expression, to blow on a boil. This is a common, so it comes from this story. So the mother and sisters were blowing and fanning the boil. And what was that doing for Amar? Nothing. He was in intense pain. So, anyway, there's more to the story, but I'm just focusing on this point. So maybe another time I'll finish it. Anyway, so the mother and sisters, they represent the material sentimental relationships. So we suffer in this material world. Everybody knows it. We're all suffering. But our near and dear ones, those who are connected with this body in familiar relationships, yes, they want to, help us in our suffering condition. But what is that help? It's like blowing on the boil. It's just kind words. Oh, how are you feeling? Oh, I've got cancer. I'm going to die. Oh, here, have some soup. Let me put another pillow under your head. You say, I think I'm going to die. Oh, my poor son. Oh, blah, blah, blah. That's all it is. It's just blah, blah. That's all they can hear. And if one wants to come with a real solution, let's cut off all this sentimental mushiness. Get out of the bodily concept of life. Come to the spiritual platform. Become devotees of Krishna. Then immediately, you're killing your mother. You're killing her. Now, mother, you're dying anyway. Sometimes I should tell this story that Ganadhar Maharaj told me. It's a long story. It's too long to tell. It's such a fantastic story about family attachment when joining the Hare Krishna movement. Please tell. I should tell. Okay. Get out your laughing handkerchiefs. Such a wild story. So Ganadhar Maharaj grew up in New York. And he was born in a Jewish family, and Jewish families are especially known, especially New York Jewish families, as being very, very attached, very tightly attached. Especially mother and son. This is extreme. Mothers are so protective of their sons in these kind of families. So Ganadhar Maharaj was a good student. In school, he earned a degree, BA degree, and his parents were very proud of him. But along the way, he developed strong interest in Krishna consciousness. After having read Prabhupada's books and gone to the temple, again and again he decided, I must become a devotee. So, but then he knew that if I become a devotee here in New York, I'll have no end of trouble from my parents because they're so attached to me. So then he thought, I'll just leave. So on some excuse, he went to Texas and he joined the Dallas temple. So there was a Gurukul. There's still a Gurukul there, but it used to be the main Gurukul of ISKCON in Dallas at that time. And because of his education, he became a teacher there. So for 2 years, he was very happily engaged as Gurukul teacher. And he informed his parents by mail he had become a devotee. So one day, while he was sitting alone in the prasadam room, somehow or other it just worked out by providence that he was sitting alone, and he had been doing some work. So he was not dressed in a dhoti. He was wearing some overalls, these kind of, you know what I mean, overalls, work overalls. And because this is the Hare Krishna movement, nobody really cares about these things. They were very oversized overalls. It just so happened, just for some special work, he was dressed in this way, and he stopped to take some prasad. And then suddenly, he saw his father. His father was at the door to the prasadam room, knocking desperately on the glass. So he got up and he opened the door. "Father, what are you doing here, all the way from New York?" And then the father said, "Oh, I just came to see you, but I'm sick." Because his father had some health problems. So then his father was holding his heart and saying, "Oh, I'm sick. Just coming here from the airport. No, I've gotten very sick. You've got to come with me, son. Take me to the doctor. Look, my car's just outside." So then Dhanadhar Maharaj was very concerned, so he went with his father to the car and drove him. And actually the strange thing, he noticed something strange. His father was driving, not that he was driving. He thought this was strange. Father, I could drive. No, it's all right. And then he was telling his father, "Look, there's a drugstore right there. We can stop and get some medicine." But the father just drove on. And then Dhanadhar was saying, "Where are you taking me?" And then suddenly, father stopped and on one side street, and there was a car parked there. And from out of the car, there came an uncle whom Dhanadhar Maharaj knew as a demon, who was very much against his joining the Hare Krishna movement. And then this big, heavy fellow. And then they both got in the car on either side of Dhanadhar Maharaj. They suddenly just jumped in, and it was deprogramming time. And they took him to some motel, and it turned out that this big fellow, his nickname was Goose. So, because he's from Canada, and Canada's known for their wild geese, so this big guy was called Goose. And he was an employee of Ted Patrick. So then Ted Patrick showed up himself in person, and the deprogramming started. So they tied up Dhanadhar Maharaj in a chair. At that time he's brahmachari. So they tied him up in a chair, and then they would make him hear tapes of blasphemy of Krishna consciousness and read strange articles about ISKCON, supposedly exposing what's really going on, and so many other things. And then when he would try to chant, under his breath, like this, so they wouldn't notice it. But Ted Patrick was always watching, and when he would see this, he would shout, "He's going into trance! He's going into trance!" And then Goose would come and give him a kick. He would kick the back of the chair. "Stop that!" Boom, boom, boom. And then he would stop. So anyway, there's a lot of details. I won't go into all the details. They're also interesting, but we have to shorten this somehow. So anyway, this deprogramming went on. But Dhanadhar Maharaj very intelligently, actually, he said Super Soul helped him. Super Soul unfolded a whole plan because he prayed very sincerely. So Super Soul helped him within one day to convince Ted Patrick and Goose that he was snapping out of it. They have this term snapping in the deprogramming world. So then he asked them, because his father had left it, gone back to New York. Deprogramming was being done there in some neighborhood in Texas. So he said, "Look, I got to see my parents. I've got to, repair my relationship with them." Now the reason he was saying like this is that he didn't know Dallas very well, but New York he knew his way around. So there would be a much better chance of escape. So then they brought him to New York. They were very encouraged. Okay, he's coming out of it already. This is very good. And they took him to his parents' home. And then Ted Patrick left because it seemed like the heavy part was over already. But Goose was there just to look over things, make sure that, within a few days he would be eating hamburgers and doing all the normal karmi things, and that means he's really deprogrammed. So, and then when he was at home, he told his father, because he was still wearing these weird overalls, and they had given him to keep warm some American high school jackets, with the big letter here and the plastic sleeves, and then for a hat, he had this sort of from somewhere they got this really strange, like a Cossack hat, this big fur hat. This is the way he'd been dressed, on the airplane and home. So he told his father, when he got home, look, this is ridiculous. See how, I'm your son and I'm dressed in this way. And then his father said, all right, we'll go to the shopping mall and I'll get you nice new clothes. And, Danadar Maharaj was thinking, then I'll make my escape. But Goose came along. So they were going through the shopping mall, and he's, dressed in this oversized overalls, wearing a high school jacket with leather and a Cossack hat. Everyone was kind of looking. And then they bought, his father bought him, I believe, an overcoat. That was the first thing. He bought him an overcoat and gave it to Danadar Maharaj in a bag. And then at that point, Goose, he was in the shopping. He saw some things he wanted to buy too, but he had only Canadian money. So he said, look, I just go to the bank and change my money. So Goose is already thinking that everything's all right, so I can just go. So he went to change the money. And then Danadar Maharaj, at that moment, zing, he just ran. And then his father was trying to run after him, hey, come back! But then his father tripped and fell and split his pants open. So Danadar Maharaj, he made it to the door, but his father was shouting, stop him, stop him, stop him! And people saw this strange fellow in a bag, who thought he was a thief, thought he had stolen something from the father. And so he was caught by shoppers. Like Danadar Maharaj says, in New York, people get killed on the street and everyone just walks by. But on this day, everyone was a good citizen. But then Danadar Maharaj, Goose was there, the father was there was big commotion. Danadar Maharaj kept shouting, call the police, call the police, call the police. So the police came. And then the police were interviewing. And they found out that Danadar was 26 years old. So they said to the father, you can't keep him. He's 26 years old. And then the father said, but he's been brainwashed by a cult, by a dangerous cult. And then the policeman said, well, look, all we can do is we can take you all down to the Kings County General Hospital, to the psychiatric ward. And there's a doctor there who can run a test on your son. And if he's found to be actually crazy, not of mental competence, then he can be legally placed in your custody. But unless that's done, you have no right to keep him. It's actually kidnapping. So then the police, they took Danadar down, followed by the father in his car with Goose. And the father called the mother too, so the mother came by taxi. She showed up at the hospital too. So there was a big scene in the hospital. Danadar Maharaj was placed in the observation ward, this glassed-in room. And he said there was a guy in a wheelchair who was just sitting in the wheelchair just cursing. And then there was a woman who was just looking at the wall and talking all the time. What the hell? And so anyway, because he was behind on his rounds, so he started to walk back and forth, chaining his rounds on his fingers. Remember, he's wearing this outlandish Cossack hat, etc. So he's walking back and forth, going, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And the doctor, his name was Dr. Combe. Dr. Combe came, and he was looking, through the glass, the whole scene. And then he went to talk to the parents. So then the parents, they also didn't give a very good impression of themselves. They started crying and shouting, and, our son, So then Dr. Combe was taking notes. Very strange family. So then he called in Danadar Maharaj. And then the first question he asked him is, are you hallucinating? Then Danadar Maharaj said, his reply was, no, I'm not hallucinating. But that does not mean that I am seeing everything the same way you are. because I am a devotee of Krishna, so I see everything as Krishna's energy, meant only for the Lord's service. I do not see this material world with an exploitative outlook. I am not engaging my senses and sense objects for the purpose of sense gratification, only for service to Krishna. So although I'm not hallucinating, that does not necessarily mean that we are seeing this world in the same way, you and I. And the psychiatrist, he was astonished. He said, well, that's very intelligent. Then he said, well, there's nothing wrong with you. He said, between you and me, I think your parents are great. So he said, I'm gonna write you a clean bill of health. You're all right. You just go. So then he wrote out this report, and then he came out to the parents with Damodar Maharaj and he informed them. He said, your son is in perfectly good mental health. He's a very intelligent young man. I don't know what this is all about, and you're just wasting my time. So then the parents, they just went into fifth gear. Completely mad. And, the mother was just screaming and crying, you're killing your father! You're killing your father! And then the father said, we're going to say, oh yeah, we're going to have the rabbi say Shiva for you. The Shiva is a kind of prayer, which is, the rabbi says when the son dies. In other words, they're saying, you're not our son anymore. So this is, in Jewish family, this is a very, very heavy thing to say. So then anyway, Damodar Maharaj, he just said, I'm going to the temple. So he called the temple and told them, this was the first time he could get on the phone, so he called New York Temple and told them everything was going on. And then the devotee said, don't worry, we're sending some devotees down right away. So he waited in the lobby, and he noticed that his mother and father and Goose were in the car outside. They were just waiting for him to come out. And he knew they would try to grab him again. Goose was there. So then the devotees showed up with the car, and two devotees came out. Very, very heavy-looking characters. There was a devotee named Gopeshwar, whom I know, and Bhakta Nick. So Gopeshwar had a long, full-length coat, you see. And Bhakta Nick, he had big muscles. Gopeshwar is also very big. And so they both came in, looking very heavy. And then Damodar Maharaj said to them, look, maybe we should go out back way and run into the car from the backside and leave quickly, because you see, there's my father and mother and Goose, the programmer. They're right out front just waiting for us to come out. And Gopeshwar, he said, we'll go out the front. Then he opened up his coat. Then he saw inside the coat, there was nunchaku, there was knife, there was brass knuckles, there was club, there was he had everything. So then they went out the front, and just as soon as they came out, Damodar Maharaj's father's Cadillac came roaring up with all the lights on, the four headlights shining on bright. And the doors opened, and Goose jumped out, the father jumped out, the mother jumped out, and they started straight for Damodar, and then Gopeshwar got in the way. He got nose to nose with Goose, looking at each other and cursing. Mother and father, they were grabbing Damodar, and Dr. Nick was trying to get them off. And then the hospital police came out. Such a big commotion. The guards of the hospital came out. And they didn't know really what was going on there. So naturally, they listened to the father more than anyone, because he looked like a respectable person driving a Cadillac. So the father said, I've come to take my son home. He's just come out of the hospital, been examined by the psychiatrist, and I'm taking him home. And then the Damodar was telling the guards, I don't want to go home with him. I'm going to the Hare Krishna temple. And then the guard said, look, they started to push Damodar to the car. Look, you go home with your father. You see, you're his son. He's going to take you home. Go home with him. And so it looked, and Damodar's heart began to sink. Oh no, after all this, I'm being forced back into the clutches of the deprogrammers. Then just at that moment, Dr. Combe came running out with his white jacket and his, he had in his hand his clipboard with papers. He came running out and he started shouting at those guards, "Stop immediately! Stop immediately! You don't understand! You don't understand!" The guards were shocked. And he just came running up and he pointed at Damodar Marsi and he said, "He's not crazy! He's perfectly sane! Let him go wherever he wants!" Then he turned and pointed at the parents. "But they are crazy! Bring them inside!" So the guards grabbed the parents and dragged them into the nut house. So, this is a very good testimony. Dr. Combe has affirmed of the Kings County General Hospital that actually a devotee of the Lord, in answer to your question, who is detached from material affection, who is aloof, and is seeing the world as Krishna's energy and not as a place for sense gratification, that he is actually sane. And those who are attached and all their emotions are all submerged in physical relationships, material relationships, Dr. Combe said they are insane. So next time someone brings up this point, you can tell this story. A psychiatrist, a trained psychiatrist, has actually declared the attitude of devotees is sane. The attitude of their attached relatives who want to drag them back into sentimental relationships, they are mad. Okay? So we're going to stop here. All right.